We've all heard the phrase, too much of a good thing. Like, what is too much of a good thing? Well, exactly what the phrase says, where you've been exposed to so much greatness that suddenly it becomes boring or uninteresting anymore. For example, hold up, let me catch my breath, I did some running. So anyways, what it means, so basically, let me give an example. In the field of animation, of course, Penguins of Madagascar. You know, whenever, like, they were the best part of the movies in, like, the Madagascar franchise, but once they got their film, that's when like everybody was like, "Hey, it's not as good as the other Madagascar films." Which, yeah, it's true. And how does that contradict to the whole too much of a good thing? Well, Penguins of Madagascar, when they were in the Madagascar films, their B plots were basically the funniest part of the movie, and then once they got their own film, it wasn't funny because they were only funny because you really wanted to see in the Madagascar films what are the penguins up to now, and then it gets funny. So now that they got their own movie, now we don't get to see what surprise they're gonna hold anymore, and like the little side plots because they are now the main focus of the movie. So yeah, that's basically what it means. So anyways, Puss in Boots 2. It's a really great movie. My favorite film of 2022. Because I haven't seen that many movies in 2022. I didn't watch all the magnum opus films, But easily was my favorite film of 2022. And what did I think of it? I thought it was an amazing movie, a great animation, and I really liked that they didn't go for like the whole Spider-Verse style where it's 2D and 3D at the same time, comic book stuff. No, they actually did their own style with like a paintbrush paint style illustration, where it kind of looks like every single time you stop the movie, it looks like a painting, like a fairy tale painting. So I saw the movie 20 times. Yes, you heard me, 20 times. So does that make the movie like bad or still good? I have to say, still good. Reason why is because I got to see more stuff that I didn't notice the first time I watched the movie, or the fourth time, in fact. So, like, for example, if you're asking me, oh, what is it that you learned about the films, not about the film, now that you've seen it a lot of times? Well, I noticed that, in the montage where we see Puss's death, like, let's see, how many lives do I have left? And then it goes to, like, the many times he's died, like, hey, it's like, hey, yo, hey, lady, have you heard of Gazpacho? Gets run by a bull, and it says one. At the corner of each number, it represents at the corner of each number that represents the number of when Puss died. It has death in it with his hooks, representing that death is getting nearby and it's getting wider. And like the symbol is getting larger. The more larger the number is, and then Puss is eating his ninth cup of cream, while death is next to him. And also, speaking of death, when he and Puss battle for the first time, Puss's hooks, like the hooks of death, are like shining on Puss's face at the beginning because Puss is struggling. But now at the final fight, now it's Death's face that is on his little hooks, because now he's struggling to combat Puss. Another thing I noticed is that Goldilocks, whenever we see her, she has like blue, her colors are very, the colors of her dress are very, bright. They're very bright. But like the more the movie goes on, they become more brown, they become more mudded. And yeah, and then at the end of the movie, when she appreciates that she's in the family, her entire outfit is brown, representing the fur of the bears. Also, speaking of Goldilocks, whenever she opens the book, where it's the first word of every line in the book that she opens, it says "You already have it," and they live finally ever after. And yeah, this movie's a packed ton of references that you really don't get the first time you watch this movie. Now, I do have to say, I don't feel the emotions as I did when I first watched it. I remember whenever death, got me at the edge of my seat whenever I first watched the movie on theaters. But now that I watched it more times, I don't get terrified. Still, I get that sense of danger whenever I watch the movie. Like, he is intimidating as hell, but I just don't get the same. But I just don't get the same experience of fear I had whenever I watched it the first time. And the jokes in there, they still do land. I still laugh at them. Like sometimes, like for example, Suka says Mikasa. joke. I really laugh at that a lot. I also laugh at Perito's backstory. I feel guilty as charged, laughing at that. It shouldn't be funny. I also like the dialogue in Spanish of Kitty Softpaws. Like for example, which says "Ay que miedo." I laugh at that because the way Salma Hayek delivered the line. So yeah, and also I still find the thing that the mama bear says whenever she says, "I was afraid this was too good to last," but if, but whether you think we're your family or not, if this is something that will make you happy, we'll get you that wish. Me and my sister, we kind of like, is someone cutting onions in the room? So yeah, I don't feel all the emotions I felt whenever I first watched this movie in the theaters. Like, whenever you watch something the first time in the theaters, it's phenomenal. Like, for example, whenever me, my dad, and my sisters watched Endgame on like the big screen for the first time, it was a sensation of joy. I remember crying in the movie theater whenever everyone like come back to life. It was like Avengers Assemble. I cried not because it was a sad scene. I cried because I was a hyper Marvel fan back then, and I was so excited that literally my emotions poured out of my eyes, and I was jumping like I was jumping very hyper. But now every single time I watch the movie, yeah, I still feel excited, but not as excited as I did when I first watched the movie in 2019. So yeah, does Puss in Boots follow the format? Too much of a good thing? No, it does not. Depending, at least for me, depending on who you are, if you're like, oh God, we're watching Puss in Boots 2 again, if you're that type of person, I don't care. I mean, I do get it. Sometimes when you watch a movie for too much, it can get annoying. Like, for example, I remember my sister loved Into the Spider-Verse whenever she first watched it in the movie theater. She loved the animation style, the characters. To this day, even though she still watches it, she still almost cries at the Uncle Aaron death scene. But she was like, nah, not Spider Verse again. She doesn't think it's a bad film. She thinks it's a great film. But it's just that she's kind of tired of watching it all the time. So yeah, Puss in Boots 2. At least in my opinion, it does not follow the format of too much of a good thing. It is amazing. It's still amazing. The animation still holds very. The animation still holds up to this day. The dialogue in it is funny, and there are some glaring details in there that some of you might miss, and that you had to watch the movie again. This movie's just full out of references that you just don't get the first time. So anyways, what are your thoughts on Puss in Boots 2? Do you think it was overrated, overhyped, or did you think it was an actually really good film? I don't know. Keep the thoughts to yourself. Put them in the comments. I don't know. I'm not your judge. See you next time.